we've got a couple of calls, Adam. You wanna grab one and talk to somebody?
I would love to, yes.
Yeah, well, we are gonna go to the Caribbean first, and that is super cool for me. I don't know if I've ever talked to somebody on one of these shows from the Caribbean. So we've got Look, He, Him. You have some interesting thoughts on Catholicism, I think. How are you?
Yes. Hi. Great. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah,
Yes.
we are good. We are excited. You're here with Secular Rarity and Adam Elmasri. What do you got for us today?
It's a claim about reliable pathways to the truth. And when I came to the YouTube channel, I saw this question about, like a survey. And I said, well, maybe not the Quran, but the CCC would be a better one.
And what for all of those at home, what is the CCC that you're referring to? Just so we're all on the same
Catechism
page.
of the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What about this do you find to be reliable? Why do you find this particular method to be a good way to get to the truth?
Well, it has been tested throughout the years, so it has changed. It's not the same thing from the beginning, and it's pretty new compared to other texts that has been written in the 2,000 years of Christianism or Catholicism. So it is more understandable and less ambiguous than the Bible itself, right? So when you are looking to move towards the truth, so we're talking a pathway to the truth, you want something that is not ambiguous, that doesn't leave room for interpretation. You talked about that. You two talked about it just before I called. So yeah, that's why I think it is a more reliable way to the truth.
So give us an example. My background isn't Catholic. Adam's background isn't Catholic specifically either. Give us some example from this book of something that could be helpful for us, all of those of us out here that are not Catholic. What are we missing that you guys have, I guess?
So I don't have one on my hand. I could maybe look it up on my.
Well, that's okay. Let me try just shouting an example I can think of off the top of my head. So from my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe the term is called transubstantiation or something along those lines, about how bread, once being blessed by the priest and then eaten by the believer, actually turns into the flesh of Christ in essence, but not in actual form. Did I encapsulate that well? Did I kind of, is that something that you believe is true?
Yeah.
How would we demonstrate whether it's true or not? Because that's something that's in the CCC, I believe, is that's part of their main beliefs. And you said this is a good way to help us get towards truth. So how would that knowledge, like that statement, help us determine truth?
The difference between the transubstantiated bread and the non-transubstantiated bread cannot be perceived by our senses besides our ears or eyes. Well,
so how do we perceive it?
There is
if we don't perceive it with our senses, how do we perceive it?
We hear the priest says that we see him do the thing.
But that doesn't mean that the bread actually changes, right? Like I could say that this water bottle right here, I could make a whole speech about how it's actually, I don't know, solid gold, but that doesn't mean that the water has changed, right? How would we know from the CCC what is in there that we could use to determine whether or not this bread actually transforms into the body of a dead Jewish guy from like 2,000 years ago?
Yeah. So the transubstantiation, you said it yourself, the matter doesn't change, the materials of the thing doesn't change, it's the substance of the thing that does change. And when you talk about transubstantiation, there is only transubstantiation in the Eucharist. There is nothing else that transubstantiates, right?
Why?
This word transubstantiation is only used to convey an idea when it comes to the Eucharist, the bread or the wine. Okay.
I mean,
Words are tools to convey ideas, and this idea of transubstantiation is something that is a word that needs to convey an idea, meaning that it is different than what it was before. It's not the same.
But would you? I'm going to ask one more question, then I want to pass it over to Adam because I want to hear some of his thoughts on this too. But I mean, do you see how there's a difference between just saying that I have an idea about something and that idea existing, right? Like me having a thought that this water is solid gold, but it not actually having any bearing on the actual situation itself, right? Does that make sense?
Right. So yeah, the thing is the gold that you talk of is something that we can understand. It's a word that conveys an idea that is different than the word transubstantiation or the body of Christ and blood of Christ. So it's the word gold that let's say that you say this water turns into shumbluk. Shumbluk is the word that you just invented, and it conveys an idea, which is what this water turns into too, right? Into two.
So are you saying that transubstantiation doesn't actually happen in real life? Like bread doesn't actually change in any way whatsoever. It's just that we now think it does because we have this word that encapsulates a particular idea. Is that what you're saying you mean? Because I would probably argue that the CCC disagrees with you on that.
We can read the CCC, what the CCC says. But
I'm pretty sure the whole Eucharist is a big part of the Catholic Church. Like I don't need to go double check on that. So, but real quick, let me throw it over to Adam. Adam, what do you have any thoughts on this? Is this making sense to you, or am I way off base here?
Before that, sorry. The actually part, the one when you say it actually changed, you are thinking of usually people atheists. They think of a change in matter. But you agree with me before at the beginning of this conversation that there is no change in matter. The materials, the atoms do not change.
So then what changes? Just the way that we're thinking about it? Because if that's the case, then what you're saying is that's just an idea and that's not in reality. You have to show that there's actually a connection between the thought in your head and the world around you. But hang on a second. We've been talking a bunch. Look, let's get Adam in on this. Adam, what are your thoughts on this? Did you come from a Catholic background or?
No, I came from a Coptic Orthodox background, which is very interesting because the Coptic Orthodox Church believe that. Are we still connected? I think.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I'm still listening.
The screen seemed to be frozen. In the Coptic Orthodox Church, we believe in the Eucharist that it transforms into the actual flesh and blood of Jesus Christ, and that's even before you consume it. So before the priest puts the bread in your mouth, you're actually taking a piece of Jesus' flesh. And we took it an extra step on that. So there has been this miracle rumor that was told generation after generation that there was one what do you call it, pathologist, a Christian pathologist who went once to take the communion, the Holy Communion, and she was in pure doubt. So what she did is she took the flesh and the thing and she put it in a tube, and she didn't actually swallow it. Took it to the lab and went and examined that piece of bread, and she found under the microscope that there is I don't know, plasma and other things that suggests that this is an actual piece of skin or whatever. And then she turned blind after that. for her doubts. And the moral of the story is it actually transforms, but you're not supposed to verify it. You're not, well, obviously, because she was stroked by God for her disbelief.
So that's
So I'm
thank you,
with
Adam.
you on
What
like
you
how
what
do
you
we
just said.
verify? Is it just an idea? Does it really transform into something else? And how do we know that it actually transforms?
That's exactly
Um,
my thoughts, Adam. Yeah.
I can make any
Yeah, me
claim
too. Me too.
on
And that's
anything.
why
And even
I
when
say that
Luke
the
was
Catholic.
on the call, and he said, "Well, if you say that this water bottle, instead of saying it turns into gold, it turns into sunblock."
Mm,
Well, how do I know that there is only one way to verify that is to apply it on my skin and examine um, ultraviolet rays before and
yeah.
after. There has to be some examination to
Right.
tell if something changes in its characteristics or not.
Yeah. So look, definitely, I think Adam and I are kind of coming from the same place.
Yeah, me too.
We
I
need
do
some
understand.
type of verification. Yeah. So what would that method be that we would use?
Yeah. So there is no change in the atoms of the thing. Adams is talking about changing the atom or the way it is constructed. And you were talking about that at the end of our conversation, Secular and me. So we have, in the Catholic Church, we don't have the matter that changed. The atoms will stay the same. If you pick the Eucharist that has been consecrated, you will still find bread as a tool to convey the.
So what changes then? If the matter itself doesn't change, then what changes? What's different about it?
The substance. What the change occurs in a field where our senses do not perceive or cannot perceive, right?
Okay.
Directly.
So
They,
if that's the case, if what you're saying is that something out there exists that is literally physically impossible for a human being to ever in any way, shape, or form have any experience or knowledge or anything like, how do you make a claim about it? If what you're saying is
so
that there's no way to interact with it whatsoever as a person, how do you then
there is a
start?
consequence.
There is a way to interact with it, just not through any of the standard senses that humans have.
There we go. So when you
What is that? What is that
there
method?
is a change in your body that happens. There is a change in the way you do or you act in the during week or the during day, the rest of the day, or those kind of things. There is a change that is happening to you. What I'm saying is that this change is not measurable by tools. It is measurable by observation. Right?
Okay, so observation would be a tool. I would call it. I mean, maybe it's
Okay.
not the same as like a cell phone, but observation would definitely be a tool. But
Okay.
I thought you said earlier that you couldn't see it. I thought you said that you couldn't see any of this. Now it sounds like what you're saying is that people who take the Eucharist just start acting differently. Well, what if people that take the Eucharist turn out to just be assholes? What if they just start acting like a jerk? Did they just not take the right Eucharist? Did it not actually transform?
Well, no, it did have an effect on them, which is not the effect that is usually that's usually upon.
But if both effects, if both conclusions still lead you to accepting this thing, if when it happens in the way that you've described, or literally the exact opposite, in both cases, you're still saying that the thing that you said works, but you just said there are times where people do take the Eucharist and it doesn't give them the same effects. So it doesn't really sound like that's a super great way to go about finding the truth, right? If both conclusions lead us to the same thing. Say again?
What is the truth that you're trying to find? Right now, we are talking about finding the truth, and I don't understand in this specific case of transubstantiation, what is the truth that you're trying to find?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. When I say truth, what I'm talking about is something known as the correspondence theory, where basically a statement has to correspond to the world around it. if that statement and the world around it don't correspond, we don't consider that truth. So, for instance, if somebody says the reason we know that the Eucharist actually does change is because when people take it, they start acting like really good citizens, and then we find people that are acting like jerks, then that doesn't correspond, right?
It's not because what happens after that we know it does change. It's because the priest and the Catholic Church said so. It is something that is based.
But hang on, we're going back now, because we already talked about this and we already agreed on this earlier. That just because one of us says something about something doesn't make it so. That we need some type of verification. That was what Adam was talking about.
We didn't agree on that, secular. We didn't agree on that. I'm sorry. But when
so I do have gold in my water bottle, is what you're telling me. I do have gold, or is it sunscreen?
I didn't agree with you because gold was something different than substance. The thing that changed, the substance of the Eucharist changed. And
this water has magic powers because I just said a spell over top of it. So this water has magic powers now. Does that mean that this water has magic powers just because I said it? Or do we need some other way of verification?
Yeah, well, you need to be a reliable source.
I'm a super reliable source.
Trustworthy.
I'm incredibly trustworthy.
Of that magical properties that you give to the water.
So no verification, just trusting the fact that the person in front of you isn't lying. Is that what you're letting me know? Is that the method for finding the truth with the catechism? Is that what you're saying? That because Pope John Paul II was the one that wrote it down, he's reliable and we trust him?
So when you find truth about anything, there is trust involved. When you think about the shape of the earth, you will be needed some kind of trust on the tools that you're using to measure what you're measuring. You will not be able to not trust anything. You will need some kind of trust somewhere along the line. So yes, trust is needed to find the truth, but that's not the truth. Only the thing that is needed for the Catholic Church is for any kind of truth. You will need some kind of trust on your senses, trust on those scientists that have discoveries, trust on the pictures.
Adam, do you feel that answers our objections?
What I'm saying right now is that there is a reliable source giving you information.
Adam, do you feel like the fact that you and I have to trust some things, like for instance, like we both exist, like reality is real and there are other people in it. Do you feel like that is a good objection to us, to what our arguments were today with the CCC?
I don't think so. Even when he at the very last part, he was saying that you always need that trust. Even when we're talking about the Earth is being a globe or a flat Earth or whatever, you have to trust. I was gonna step into this exactly because you have some people you may trust immensely who will say, well, the Earth is flat. And I have some people that I trust immensely and they say the Earth is globe. So now I trust in a bunch and you trust in a bunch, and who's got the truth here? Just because we're basing our argument on who we trust rather than is there a verifiable method that we can follow to, because obviously one or the other is wrong.